There is a common misconception that something is kosher if it was blessed by the rabbi. But this is not true. Toastmaster of the evening, fellow Toastmasters and guests. There is nothing a rabbi can do that would change a food that is not kosher into something that is kosher. But I do understand why people get this impression. There are many organizations made up of rabbis and other reliable individuals that certify products are kosher. For something to be kosher, it needs to start out kosher and remain kosher. All trees and plants start off kosher. For animals, the Bible lists the kosher animals in Deuteronomy chapter 14. Land animals need to have split hooves and chew their cud. So in addition to the cow, goat, and sheep, perhaps you didn't realize that the giraffe is also kosher. On the other hand, a pig is not kosher, as it has split hooves, but it does not chew its cud. For fish, they must have fins and scales. For the birds, the Bible lists the kosher and unkosher birds. The Bible also says not to cook a calf in its mother's milk. This is interpreted to mean not to cook any milk and meat together. So we keep two sets of dishes, one for milk and related products, and one for meat. At least many people do. Some have three sets of dishes. Many people believe that it is healthier to eat kosher, but I keep kosher because I believe God said to do so. It used to be you could just read the ingredients of a product to determine if it was kosher, but that was over 30 years ago. Since then, manufacturing has gotten more complicated and now uses chemicals and artificial ingredients. The FDA does not even require that a company list an ingredient if there is less than 2% of it in the product. So organizations were created to certify that things are kosher.
Isn't it true that something could be not kosher, but a rabbi could say that it is in fact kosher for one person, but it's not kosher for another person? I mean, if you did something wrong with a chicken and you were a poor person, the rabbi might be able to say, hey, that chicken is kosher for you. But for a rich person who did the exact same thing with the exact same chicken, the rabbi might come back and say, no, that's not kosher.
So that's a very good question, and that is getting into some details that I was not planning to cover in this talk.
But doesn't that show you that just because it could be kosher or is kosher, it isn't necessarily kosher unless the rabbi says it? Not necessarily that the rabbi is giving a blessing to it, but certainly he is allowing you to have something that is not necessarily kosher when it should be kosher, or vice versa.
So that is a more advanced way to look at it, but I'm covering for a beginner for coming at this the basics.
But I am correct, though, right?
I think that is correct. That is one way to look at it in some cases. Yes.
Okay, good.
Thank you. So the organizations work with a company that they want to produce kosher products to confirm that they're doing it right. The organization creates a symbol and they trademark it. It is then illegal for any other company to use that symbol without the organization's permission because it's trademarked. But not all kosher organizations are indefatigable or equal. They are only as reliable or trustworthy as the people running them. Unfortunately, some organizations have been created and run by unreliable people, and some ignore rules that others think are important. So a kosher consumer needs to keep track of the organizations that they trust.
In Texas with the kashrut agency and how they had this guy who could barely walk and chew bubble gum at the same time. and they
Jennifer,
oversaw his kashrut.
are
I'm
you
sorry, Andy?
saying something, Jennifer?
Yeah, I was just telling Rachel about this guy who oversaw kashrut for a major organization that oversees kashrut. And the guy that they had check out the nut processing plant could barely walk and chew bubble gum at the same time. So
Uh-oh.
I was just sharing that with Rachel.
Yeah, what do we do about that guy? Oh no.
Thank
Because
you.
he actually knows who he is, actually.
Oh goodness.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Sorry. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt much. Sorry.
So the kosher consumer needs to keep track of the organizations that they will trust. Fortunately, there are some nationally respected kosher organizations to make this a bit easier.
So can I,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Can I like check the little symbol, but also check the ingredients? Will that work too? Because I mean, I don't know if I want like Doritos. I know some people say, Doritos has this label, but or that yogurt has that label, but you can't. Can I check the
So as
ingredients?
I said, the organization tells you who is responsible for saying that it's kosher, and then it's up to you, perhaps with consultation with your rabbi, to decide if you trust that organization. So that particular symbol, and that would be up to you on a personal level. So the symbol just says who is behind it and who is authorizing it. Then it's up to you to decide who to trust.
Oh my
And so
goodness.
here are a list of some of the common organizations that are seen nationally in America to do kosher supervision. The top one is called the OU, or Circle U. There's the Circle K, and closer to home from Baltimore is the Star K.
You know,
Wait,
I'm
wait.
noticing.
Oh.
I'm sorry. I'm noticing that this one, the Chaf K, is in Teaneck, and the rabbi who's in charge of that one lives next door to my very good friend. His wife went to seminary with me. It's just really cool seeing them up there on the screen.
It is very nice. There are a lot from all around the world. Thank you, Laura.
Yeah, but what about there's I see all the time just a plain K, and if the ingredients are good, why shouldn't that be good enough? It's easier. We don't have to pay all these rabbis and stuff. We just put the K on there. If it's good, it's good. What's wrong with that?
Well, I don't trust personally organizations to make their own decisions on this, to know all the rules. And I've definitely seen some organizations, Enron, making their own decisions. I'm not sure if I would trust them with a kosher symbol.
They're bankrupt.
The kosher symbols are called hechshers and useful for more than just people who keep kosher. They can be invaluable to people who are lactose intolerant, as they will usually clearly spell out if a product contains any milk or not. Similarly, a vegetarian or vegan can use them to tell if a product contains any milk or meat. A Muslim who follows halal keep a similar set of rules to what the kosher organizations do. Another kosher restriction is that an animal must be killed in the proper
so helpful
way.
to everybody.
What was that, Rachel?
Oh, I was saying we're so helpful to everybody.
It helps a lot of people. This requires personal attention to each individual animal being killed and forbids mass processing techniques that are found at many slaughterhouses. The knife that will cut the animal must be checked before each and every animal to make sure there are no nicks that would cause excess harm. The Hebrew word kosher means fit or correct. In Jewish law, this word applies to many things unrelated to food. I had a non-Jewish coworker who used to apologize for using the word kosher to refer to something other than food. She might say, "I don't think that plan is kosher." And then she would apologize. But I told her that is actually a correct use of the word. If someone asks, "Are they acting kosher?" this isn't asking if they are just eating correct foods. This is asking if they are acting with integrity in a trustworthy way. So I ask, are you acting kosher? And before I turn it back over to the Toastmaster of the day, does anybody have any questions?
I know that in the Bible, like you said, God asks us to bless the food before eating. So I understand, in my way of praying, we don't say kosher. Kosher is like more about Jewish. It's like Muslim, they say halal.
Mhm.
Jewish, they say kosher, and we say just blessed, blessed food. Just to have a better understanding, for me, when I bless the food, I know if something, is not kosher or it's not blessed, I can bless it by the power of God, because he said that anything that I will bless, anything that I will, bless, he will bless it. And even he said, if I drank poison, but if I bless the drink and I don't know that there is a poison on the drink, but if I bless it before I drink it, I will not be affected or die. So is it actually what you were trying to explain with the kosher? It's like, when something is not kosher, although you say that something that is not kosher, we cannot make it kosher, but it has to remain kosher.
So kosher does not necessarily mean that it's healthy for you or not poisonous for you. The kosher rules are, as I said, very sort of specific from the Bible about what animals were used, about not mixing milk and meat. But you're talking about the spiritual blessing of a food. That's sort of getting permission, thanking God for the food.
Last question. So the food himself has to be kosher. But when the rabbi bless the kosher, how do you call that?
Right. So as I said, the rabbi does not bless it.
He don't.
The food is either kosher or not kosher. What the rabbi is doing is certifying or supervising to make sure that it has followed the process. And you could colloquial say they give their blessing, just like I give my blessing for this meeting to proceed, but it's not an official blessing that in the religious sense of the word.
Okay, I understand that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Rose. And back to you, Toastmaster of the day.